Alright, let's go, because you know what I came here to do.
I don't get paid for overtime. I'm here to fight.
From 1963 to 1998, A-star referee Mills Lane and his famous "Let's get it on" catchphrase was a staple part of American boxing, world boxing. That, alongside Michael Buffer's "Let's get ready to rumble," added an extra aesthetic to the event, and it will not be forgotten. He refereed some great bouts all his career, but his most famous moment will be disqualifying Mike Tyson for the biting incident against Evander Holyfield.
Why did you stop?
How many times you want him to get bit? There's a goddamn limit to everything, you know, including bites.
Well,
That's why.
Now, Tyson's camp will say that the headbutts were
The all bullshit. The headbutt was unintentional butt. The headbutt was an unintentional butt, and I called his butt.
Bruce Trampler informed us on Twitter that he has passed away. R.I.P.
Right here's gonna be okay, Don? You've been through all the instructions at one time. I expect a tough, clean fight. Protect yourself at all times. Any questions from the challenger, Chief Second? Champion, Chief Second. Let's get it on!
The initial bid of 1.8 million would have netted Demetrius way over $1 million. I don't do maths. Everyone knows I don't do maths. Parker would have took 500,000. 65% is what Andrade was entitled. And Frank won the bid and was paying up. Andrade said he was injured. The fight came back around for another purse bid. This time, Frank Warren didn't have to compete against anyone with the bid because Andrade had left Matchroom. And Frank bid the minimum for the fight and won. And that would have left Andrade with a ridiculous purse. I think he probably wouldn't have cleared 200,000. Of course, he rejected the offer, turned down the fight. But he's been inactive for the whole year. He messed up the bag. Bad. He messed up the bag. And he was headlining his own show in the UK for an interim belt, not the full title. That's what Canelo has ownership of. But, you know, he's headlining his own shit. He's 34 years of age now. He will be back in the ring January. Looks like he's got a new situation. A lot of things changing across the pond. Andrade will be on the undercard to Gervonta Davis versus Hector Luis Garcia. It's on pay-per-view. Whether the fan base out there want to pay for it, we'll see. It's a good card, though. Andrade takes on Demond Nicholson. Never heard of him. It'd be a super middleweight. I could only imagine he's getting a fraction of what Frank Warren was going to pay him. I mean, there's no title on the line for this. This undercard shit. 10-rounder. How do you, at 36 years of age, a two-time, two-weight world champion, end up on the undercard of a main event that doesn't have a title? Something's went wrong. And he can't afford no more slip-ups either in the ring or outside the ring when handling his business. We've got Rashidi Ellis on the bill against Roman Villa. He recently left Golden Boy because he didn't feel he was getting opportunities over there. We also have Jaron Ennis on the card. He's been very inactive. He takes on Karen, strange name for a dude, Karen Chukadzian. This will be for the IBF interim world title. Spence holds the full belt. Don't really see much IBF interim titles, do you? So we got them now with secondary titles. Flipping out. And of course, the main man, Gervonta Davis, headlines the card against Hector Luis Garcia, who is currently the WBA World Super Featherweight Champion. So that's a good main event right there. Leonard Ellaby and Floyd's absence were noticeable. And Tank has a new situation. Maybe he's got them termination papers he was seeking. But Tom Brown is fronting the promotion. Is it still PBC? Is it? I don't know. The Hector Garcia fight is no tune-up, and Tank has a situation that could land him in jail. You wonder how serious a Tank-Ryan fight is when Tank is talking about Ryan is on something. He's definitely on something. What does that mean? You're not going to fight him? He's dirty? I don't know. You got receipts? And here's a novel idea. Ever heard of VADA testing? Test the guy. You can turn down a $10 million offer from Eddie Hearn and DAZN to stage the Ryan Garcia fight. You can afford stringent VADA testing. You shouldn't have nothing to worry about. Yeah, Tank replied to Eddie, sent him the DM, offered him 10 mil. And he seems to be grouping Matchroom fighters in with Golden Boy fighters. That's why he's accusing Ryan of being dirty, because of the Conor Benn situation. Why did you try to continue a boxing fight when you knew a fighter was dirty? Then he said, Buddy sent me an offer for Ryan, some shit I'm already making plus more. Well, I tell you what, if Showtime are handing Gervonta Davis bags like that, congratulations. At the presser, he said, much love to Mayweather Promotions, Leonard and Floyd, but he's doing his own thing now. So, I guess them termination papers have came through. Looks like he's got a new look to go with his new situation, the braids. He looks like the third member of Crisscross with hands. The question is, though, is Showtime out of the PBC business? If they've got Tank and don't have to go through Al Heyman or Leonard, that's a coup, isn't it? Tank, Boots Ennis, and Demetrius Andrade, and Rashidi Ellis. Tank is one of the most important players in American boxing. And if he can beat Garcia and the other Garcia, and perhaps stay out of jail, he's one of the biggest draws in the game, people. So Anthony Joshua is in California working with Virgil Hunter. It appears he's just enjoying his freedom, not being tied down to one trainer. Because Roy Jones has also revealed that he was approached by Joshua to train him on a trial basis. He said he wants to be a free spirit. He said he locked himself down for 11 years with one coach, Rob McCracken, and now he feels like he wants to learn as much as possible. He's in a position where he's able to work with anyone, so yeah, who knows what will happen next year. The whole free spirit thing, I get where he's coming from. He doesn't want to get stale. Others would argue it's indecisive. Another telltale sign that his mind isn't on the job, and that perhaps he needs to just settle down with one coach and bed down a relationship. But I guess he's afraid of going into a situation and then being stuck in a bad situation. I don't know, I guess we'll see what he thinks is best for him. Whatever he thinks is best for him is what he should do. That's what I'll say. What's the strategy here? Is he just trying to pick up little tidbits from one coach, this coach, another coach? Does he get bored over a long haul of a training camp? Because if that's the case, hopping from gym to gym, will it really fix that? I think part of boxing training is that it can become a little repetitive. And that's where you need the discipline and the mental strength to see it through. Just have to play it by ear and see what he's doing and judge whatever he's doing by results. Simple as that. Ammo Williams versus Felix Cash. Done, says Eddie Hearn, is to be an eliminator for the WBA middleweight title, which makes no sense really, because Erislandy Lara is the lower tier belt holder to Gennady Golovkin. I guess not a final eliminator, so maybe it does make sense. Although it doesn't make sense, it's a whole load of nonsense really, isn't it? I mean, when's Golovkin going to fight Lara? And when's the WBA going to strip him for not fighting Lara? Anyway, forget that. It's a good matchup. That's a very good matchup. Ammo is 26 years of age, 13-0 with 9 knockouts. He's been taking the distance in his last two by Kieran Conway and Simon Madsen. Felix Cash, he's 29, 15 wins, 10 by stoppage, no losses, no draws. In his last appearance earlier this year, he fought Magomed Madlev, and it was touch and go, wasn't it? He was knocked down a couple of times, cut over the eye, deducted at one point, and, you know, he won enough 10-9 rounds to offset the knockdowns and the deduction, I guess, and he got there in the end. But he was brought down to earth, wasn't he, after that great performance against Denzel Bentley. So, good fight. Very good fight. Who wins? I'll have to get back to you guys on the who wins bit. I have to break it down a little more, I guess. I think Cash should be rematching that guy he struggled against last time against, Madlev. It looks like John Ryder could be beating out the Mexican monster to that Canelo fight, and they're looking to hold it in the UK. Eddie Hearn said it's likely to be in the United States, the UK, or Mexico. And they're looking at the Emirates Stadium, which John Ryder, an Arsenal fan, would welcome, or Wembley Stadium. Any big stadium, be a massive fight. A lot of people across the pond, they're going to be saying, another bum. They're going to look at the 5 losses on John Ryder's record. But John Ryder is no Euro bum. You know, he's coming off 2 wins. Well, he's coming off 4 wins, actually. And a disputed decision against Callum Smith. I'm a Callum Smith fan, but Callum didn't win that fight. He didn't win. 2 wins on the bounce, like I'm saying. Danny Jacobs, controversial, very controversial one. Got a little lucky, but he got the W. And then Zach Parker. A lot of people pegged Zach Parker to beat John Ryder for that vacant WBO interim belt. It made Zach quit. I don't see the Mexican monster, as Mike has termed him. I don't see him taking on the opposition that John Ryder is taking on. I don't see it. I don't see it. You know, across the pond, they would tell you Canelo is ducking Jamal Charlo. He should get the shot ahead of Ryder. On current form? No.
You cannot be serious!
Ryder is an improved fighter, a very improved fighter. And he's proactive in fighting the best competition he can possibly face. He always has been. I'm not expected to convince anyone in America who is sold on the Mexican monster. I'm not trying to convince them because I never will. But I've got no problem with John Ryder getting this shot. None at all. He's the interim WBO title holder. So he is, in theory, a mandatory, or will be mandated, to be a challenger for Canelo at 168. It's a good fight. Canelo's talking about it being a tune-up. A tune-up, you know, for Bivol in 2023 when he's going to look to avenge his second career loss. Jump back up to 175 and try and handle that. John Ryder, I don't think John Ryder will be a tune-up. I don't think he'll be a tune-up. I think it'll be a tough assignment for Canelo. And if it isn't, it is what it is. Like Canelo, why is he going to wait around for David Benavidez, who's just got around to fighting Caleb Plant, who Canelo's knocked out already? Canelo's on the next phase of his career. World tour. Mexico, United Kingdom. Location is important here with Canelo, though. Because if he takes on Ryder in America, then it loses its appeal. If he takes him on in the UK, it's a big stadium fight. He can always say, yeah, I always wanted to fight in the UK. He starts developing another fan base as well. But if he fights Ryder in America, you know, he'll have to endure the whole David Benavidez. I just don't get the David Benavidez thing like you guys do. I just don't get it. I don't get it. And I've watched boxing a long time. And if I got it, I would say I get it. But I just don't get it. I really don't get it. I'd be interested to know from the David Benavidez believers, when you call passionately for David Benavidez to fight Canelo, what is it you're seeing? Julian Jackson, Gerald McClellan, sort of dangerous, or you just dislike Canelo? Lawrence Okolie might have wanted this mandatory against David Light to be ordered after the alleged upcoming lawsuits between him and Matchroom Boxing. So he could have his day in court, or his days in court, and make a clean break and get some of that Sky Sports money they've been dangling in front of him for a little while. But the WBO have mandated David Light to take Lawrence Okolie on for that WBO strap at 200 pounds. The two sides were instructed by the WBO to enter negotiations for a mandatory title fight. David Light just recently upset Brandon Glanton from the United States with a split decision. Glanton was 17-0 with 14 stoppages, so we can assume he had a reputation of being a bit of a puncher. And they're saying it was an upset win. I didn't see the fight. I didn't know about the fight until I read David Light was being mandated. Without knowing a bar of what the legal proceedings are, Lawrence can't go run to Ben Shalom for anything right now to negotiate this fight. The WBO have addressed Matt Rose, David Light's promoter, and Eddie Hearn, which spells out the requirement to start negotiations. Now, I don't know Matt Rose, don't know what he's done, don't know what fighters he's promoted. I'm just going to assume he doesn't have the resources that Eddie Hearn, who promotes the likes of Canelo and Anthony Joshua, has. I'm just going to assume that Eddie wins the purse bid, or it doesn't even get to a purse bid. As long as Lawrence isn't being awkward, this shouldn't get to a purse bid. A deal should be worked out. So I'm sure Lawrence don't want to fight in New Zealand. As much as he hates Eddie Hearn, does he want to travel to New Zealand? The minimum bid for a cruiserweight fight with the WBO is $300,000 US dollars. David Light looks like a decent fighter. No special effects from what I saw. Not particularly fast or defensively brilliant. Not particularly big. Okolie would be an overwhelming favourite. But if his mind ain't right, anything could happen. Update. Just had to do a little edit here. On December the 5th, the WBO granted both parties, David Light and Lawrence Okolie, 20 days to reach an agreement or purse bid proceedings would ensue. Team Okolie have demanded that Matchroom reflect opposite positions
and or versions as to the promotional representation of Okolie. The original notification letter to all parties listed Matchroom Boxing as the representative for Okolie. They've promoted him since 2016, after the Rio Olympics. The WBO confirmed email communication from Team Okolie, confirming receipt of the negotiation notice, advising that Matchroom Boxing was no longer Okolie's promoter. Team Okolie have requested that the WBO refrain from including Matchroom in any further correspondence pertaining to the Lawrence Okolie-David Light Cruiserweight contest. A Matchroom representative asserting that Okolie and Matchroom are parties to a pending dispute resolution process, and in order to preserve the legal status quo, Matchroom should remain informed on matters pertaining to Okolie. Matchroom Boxing will still be privy to all stages of negotiation of the fight. That's all I really need to read. I'm going to come off script now. So, if Matchroom put a bid in, Okolie's not going to fight. That's obvious. He's not going to fight. So right now, it looks like Okolie is heading over to New Zealand, unless Matchroom put an injunction on the fight, if they're able to do that. It's very messy right now. That's all I can say. It's very messy. About to get messier. One of the most under-the-radar best wins for a UK boxer has got to be Nigel Benn knocking out Iron Barkley in one round in America. People have to remember, Iron Barkley is a free weight world champion. People have to remember this, and they have to remember he's probably in more classics, under-the-radar classics, than any fighter, modern-day fighter. Nigel Benn was dirty. He was dirty in the ring. First knockdown, Barkley sprang straight back up, and Nigel didn't wait for the referee to administer a count or clean his gloves off or anything like that. He threw another right hand, which didn't catch him cleanly, but he was warned. Then the second knockdown, after Barkley came back and had Ben in trouble, Ben floored Barkley and blatantly drilled him with another right hand while he was down. Barkley, unwisely, but in character with who he is, got straight back up. Ben scored another knockdown. 3 knockdown rule, it was over. Carlos Padilla was the referee who we've recently been talking about when he admitted fixing, or at least assisting, Manny Pacquiao to win one of his early fights in the Philippines against the Australian. Carlos Padilla lost control of the fight between Ben and Barkley. And a lot of the boxing media were not happy the way the fight concluded, especially after Ben hit Barkley while he was down. This was for the WBO title. The 3 knockdown rule was in effect. And without the 3 knockdown rule, perhaps the fight would have continued. And it was shortly after that, the WBO and the other sanctioning bodies, maybe not the WBA, unless they got rid of it back then and then reinstated it, because they still use it. But the other sanctioning bodies, they got rid of the 3 knockdown rule. Now, Daniel Dubois is the WBA interim champion. On Saturday, he was floored 3 times in the first round. They were all registered as knockdowns, even though there was a couple where it didn't seem like he took any clean punches. If this was in America, or in most other territories where the WBA sanctioned fights, he would have been stopped in the first round. It's only the British Boxing Board of Control do not acknowledge that ruling, is what saved Daniel on Saturday from an L. Daniel managed to pull the fight round and get Kevin LERANA out of there. A lot of people are suspicious that after knocking Daniel down 3 times in the first round, LERANA didn't appear to be very aggressive or assertive in trying to score the stoppage. A few people think the fight could have been fixed. I don't know about that. Remember Luke Campbell floored Ryan Garcia? Ryan even said he was buzzed, and Luke didn't go straight in. He gave Garcia crucial seconds to recover, and Luke himself got knocked out a few rounds after. Some boxers don't have that killer instinct. They just don't have it, and are perhaps surprised that they scored the knockdown against the fighter who was favoured to win. Does that describe Kevin LERANA, or was the fight fixed? So what's next for Daniel Dubois? Pump the brakes? Slow down. Does the matchmaking have to be less ambitious than it has already? Just wait for the opportunity to cash him out now? Because you can't really afford to develop Daniel, perhaps, is what Frank Warren and the matchmakers at Queensbury are thinking. Or just ignore that, it's a blip in the road, and keep going. And let's remember, he's a WBA interim champion. He really should be looking at fighting top 10 opposition. Frank Warren didn't look too happy ringside watching that, I'm telling you. Before the fight, I didn't predict him to lose or anything like that. I thought LERANA would pose a test, and he did. I thought Daniel would win. So I'm not here all like, I told you so. But I did point out to how anxious he looked pre-fight in an interview with one of the media outlets. And I'm wondering, does he have a problem with his nerves, or he just doesn't take a good punch? We'll have to see. It might just be a blip, and they just continue in the direction they were going. If Frank's going to cash him out, cash him out. But as for him being world class, let's not fool ourselves here. He could easily just abandon that strap. You're not a world champion. Just like Fabio Wardley, he beat Nathan Gorman for a British title, did Daniel. And I would like to see that fight for the British title. Daniel Dubois versus Fabio Wardley. That's the one I like to see. Someone's getting knocked the fuck out.